I guess it's still morning. Good morning to everyone, and hopefully the rain will hold off and we can get a good day's work in. We've had some good preparation leading into this first ball game of the season, and all our guys are really excited about playing in front of the fans and opening day. There's nothing like it. So more work to be done, but we're excited about the opportunity. Great opportunity.
Coach, what about your defensive line formation? Something you're working with through the course of preseason camp. Do you anticipate that's something that's going to kind of roll right into the season and may even take a few weeks to find exactly what you're looking for from different groups of guys?
Yeah, I think, Chris, it'll be evolving as we go, but we have a pretty good idea going to this first ball game, how we want to do things, and we'll mix it up as the game goes and we get a better feel for how this opponent is approaching things. But I think we have a pretty good idea how we want to approach it, and it'll be changing as the season goes on.
Leslie, when you look back at last season, you did all your review and everything else, and as you go into this year, what was the chief takeaway you took from 2020 as to this is what has to be better in 2021?
Probably say, we really wanted to, when we started the OTAs and in our offseason program, we put a heavy emphasis on tackling. That was an area we really wanted to improve as a defense, which we thought would also help our run defense if we improved our tackling. And that was one of the permeating emphasis throughout. And there were some other things that we emphasized, but that was probably the one thing we really harped on, improving our tackling.
Was there any, did you do like a statistical study, maybe like in-house thing that suggested that was an area that you needed to improve?
Yeah, we looked at some numbers, and we just felt like that was an area that if we got better at it, we would be much better in some other areas also. Yards after catch, yards after contact in the run game. And so it's an area we placed some emphasis on. I think in the preseason, we were better tackling. When we took a look at the numbers, we had fewer missed tackles in ball games, and hopefully that'll carry over into the season.
Leslie, what makes Najee Harris so dynamic and explosive?
He's one of those guys who, as a running back, has really good vision. He can see things that, a lot of other backs can't see. There are times where he's about to approach a hole and it may look a little cloudy, and he's able to find that opening. And the real good ones, they're able to do that. You shut something off and they're able to sidestep it or take a cut and find a crease. And he's one of those guys, if you give him a crease, he'll find it, and it could become an explosive play.
You mentioned how you put emphasis on tackling, especially with the matchup going against a guy like that. How even more important, I guess, is it to limit and contain his explosive plays?
It's one of the things we've talked about as we've talked about our game plan, not just with him, but with some of the other players as well. The yards after catch, he was a good back coming out of the backfield, catching the football in college. So we know that that's a part of his repertoire as well. Not only is he good in the backfield, but coming out of the backfield as well. So we want to limit the opportunities for those explosives in the passing game as well as what he does behind the line of scrimmage.
He talks about how well documented last year, no training camp, no preseason games really. How do you feel this defense is better prepared for week one? I remember last year Micah Hyde talking about they were still trying to figure some things out with communication. Where do you feel like you guys are prepared this year week one compared to last year?
Yeah, it's just so different having a training camp and all season. I was teasing AJ Espinosa a few days ago about having a chance to practice and be in front of fans when we were in the stadium. So it's hard to compare what we went through a year ago to where we are now. It's we're just so much farther ahead than we were this time a year ago in a lot of areas. The communication, being able to work some drills that we couldn't work, not being able to go against opponents, having a live scrimmage where our ones got some work in the final preseason game. Just a lot of things that we hope will have us better prepared to start this season.
So not as nervous this year week one compared to last year?
Yeah, there were so many unknowns a year ago. There were so many question marks. So, we feel a lot more settled in a lot of areas. Yeah.
Leslie, did you notice at all, or have you, a difference in Ed Oliver's mindset, approach, anything like that than in his first few years?
Well, I think, John, he's definitely matured as a player. You can see his growth. We're all watching his maturation. It's been a process, and it's been really good. You know, you could see him really ascending as a player, and having an off season has been really good for Ed. Having a chance to work with our D-line coach Eric Washington and his assistant Jacques Frazier, something Ed didn't have a chance to do last season. You know, new position coach, new way of doing things, and you're kind of learning on the run as the season goes on. So, yes, we've seen tremendous growth throughout the entire off season. He's had a really good training camp, good preseason, and expecting him to have a really good season as well.
Was that something that organically happened, or did you guys have conversations? Did he and Eric have conversations? Was it something just in general, in exit meetings a year ago? Hey, this is we need more of you, from you in this regard.
Yeah, when we at the end of the season, we always go back and talk with each one of our players about areas we think they can get better, what their strengths are, and there were some things we pointed out with Ed. He's been so good for us with his energy, his hustle, his effort, but he's a very talented guy as well. So one of the things we really challenged him to be able to do is to consistently, make those big plays for us up front, using his ability to get off of blocks, chase the ball down like he does, and just to be consistently good at doing that. And he's done it. I mean, he's taken it upon himself. He has a strong desire to be good. He wants to be good. And when you have talent and you have the work ethic and then you have that mindset, you have a chance to really become a really good player, and he's on his way to doing that.
Leslie, do you think Tremaine Edmonds has to become a game wrecker this year? I mean, he's been good. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Does he need to become a game wrecker to become an elite linebacker in this league?
Some people would consider him elite now. I mean, he's been to multiple Pro Bowls at this point, his young point in his career, and but to take that next step, I mean, he would tell you just like I would that he'd like to get his hands on more balls, get some fumbles, some forced fumbles, maybe some interceptions, just some splash plays. But he's done a great job for us in the things that we ask him to do from a leadership standpoint, made a lot of plays for us, but being able to make those splash plays, that would take him to another level. He's a very, very good player and still very young in his career, so he's going to get better and better. But that's the next step, those splash plays.
Leslie, how much do you anticipate, in what ways also do you anticipate the Steelers' offensive approach may have changed compared to like last December when you played them with the new coordinator and some of the changes they made?
Yeah, we've been trying to figure that out, John, just trying to get a feel for the new coordinator and his history and try to get an idea of what we can potentially expect. There's some unknowns for sure, not having any data of him calling plays other than the preseason, and you don't know what they're holding back in the preseason. So it's a little bit of speculation on our part, but we're trying to just gather information and try to be a step ahead. But we know more than likely we're going to have to adjust at some point in the game to some things that are unscouted. We just there's some unknowns.
Just jumping off of that too, what are the challenges? Because there obviously is familiarity with a lot of the personnel, but at the same point there is that new wrinkle of a new coordinator and everything that comes with it.
Yeah, it definitely presents some challenges. We've tried to put our players in different scenarios, just guessing what they might want to do with their new coordinator. We know that there's been a heavy emphasis on their getting back to getting their run game going, and so that being the case, we're always talking about stopping the run and being effective in that area. But they've got some explosive receivers and a Hall of Fame quarterback as well. So it's a little bit of a guessing game as to what they might do. And like I said earlier, we just have to be ready to adjust as the game goes on once we get a better handle of how they want to approach things with their new coordinator.
Leslie, how have the expectations for Greg and his readiness to contribute shifted from when you first drafted him after he took a whole year off to where he is right now heading into the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, his growth from, say, rookie minicamp through the preseason has been tremendous. In rookie minicamp, you could see, he didn't have his sea legs under him at all. He was just trying to figure things out, and with such a long layoff, he had missed so much football and pushing up against other people. You could see it. It was obvious. But as training camp has gone on and we watched him perform in these preseason games, he's done a really, really good job. He's gotten us excited about some of the things he's been able to accomplish, and we expect big things from him. He's really set a high bar in the way he's practiced and performed and handled the defense and the information that we've given him. We're excited to watch him play on opening day.
Leslie, what does AJ and Vanessa need to do to take the next step? Because a lot of the teammates that we've talked to this offseason have been very complimentary of him as he enters his second year.
Yeah, I think for AJ, it's just time on task. I mean, he's done a terrific job throughout the entire offseason, had a good training camp as well and good preseason. So just got to keep giving him opportunities, putting him out there. He just needs to experience, and the only way you get that is by playing, and he's more than capable. Just got to continue to give him opportunities.
With that being said, you guys put so much of an emphasis on improving the pass rush. Talked about AJ and Greg. Is this kind of a really great opportunity for them, given that the Steelers have an inexperienced offensive line? I mean, they're starting 2 rookies there.
Yeah. Well, some of it would depend on how well we're able to defend the run, and they're probably, I know last season they were the best team in the league as far as getting the football out and really neutralizing your defensive line by how quickly they get the ball out. So we got to deal with that and try to get our hands up and try to get some batted balls. But this is one of those games where sometimes your most effective pass rush is just being able to harass the quarterback. You may not get him on the ground because how quickly they get it out and their style passing game. But if we can affect him with our presence, that may be as good as a sack sometimes.
The other day, Sean told us, he said, you guys have written enough about the defensive line, now it's time for them to go and perform. Are you of the same mindset that you guys have invested a lot of capital in that offensive line the last couple of years? It's time for them to, get after it now?
Yeah, I think our defensive line, they did a lot of good things for us in 2020. I mean, we did a good job of hitting the quarterback. Sometimes the sack number is not a great indicator of whether or not you're affecting the quarterback. And they've done a terrific job throughout this preseason. I mean, they've really, really risen to the challenge throughout the preseason. So not really overly concerned about our D-line. Their performance has been on par for us, and we feel like they're going to be major contributors to our success on Sunday for sure.
Leslie, why has it been so important to keep the core of your defensive backs unit together over the last several seasons?
Matt, is a little bit of a luxury. We're fortunate to have some very good players, and that's probably the reason for low turnover. Our safeties are premier safeties, both Mike and Jordan in our league, and Davis is one of the premier corners in our league. So it's a no-brainer that you want those guys on your defense. And Levi is a guy who's coming. He's on the come all the time, consistently, pushes away the competition and wins the job each year. So that has a lot to do with the fact that they have been able to stay together. The fact they're good enough, talented enough, and they're really good players. So you don't want to lose good players. That's what contributes to the fact that they're together as long as they've been together.
Was there a time in your playing days where you were a part of a unit that was together for several years and you saw the benefits and why it's valuable to keep guys together and spend the money on them to keep them together in order to have a better defensive line or defense as a whole?
Oh, yeah. The team that I was a part of that won a championship, we were together for a period of time, and we got an influx of talent maybe 2 or 3 years before we won a championship. There's great value in having continuity, in particular in your secondary, because of all the changes in the communication that's involved. And when a guy comes in and has to learn a new defensive scheme or get familiar with the language and how we fit up certain routes or what our communication means, that can be a hindrance to a degree, depending on that guy's ability to learn. The fact that we've been together for the number of years that we have, it just gives us a leg up when it comes to preparation, how we do meetings, how we do practices. I mean, you feel like the learning curve is so much lesser than it would be if we had not been together for as long as we have. So it's a tremendous advantage, and it helps us, and it shows in our performance.
Is there a guy that comes to mind for you that you believe could kind of have that breakout year, that breakout season?
Well, Ed has done a really good job for us at D-tackle, but he has a chance to, I think, really open some eyes around the league this season, and looking forward to him having a bust-out season, and that'll be really good for our defense. He's been consistently good, but there's a chance he could go to another level, and this would be the ideal year for that to happen. So.